What if I told you that some of the toughest action stars in Hollywood, those larger-than-life icons known for their muscle and grit, were secretly battling an addiction that would have destroyed their careers at any moment? Behind the high-octane car chases, bone-crushing fights, and epic explosions were men struggling to stay afloat in a world of fame, pressure, and temptation. In an era where the bright lights of Hollywood often hid the darkest secrets, these stars' demons were buried deep until the truth started to surface. Here are 15 action heroes whose battles with addiction almost cost them everything. Number 15. River Phoenix. River Phoenix should have redefined action stardom for a new generation. His physical performances in films like Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade showcased convincing athleticism and limitless potential. Industry insiders predicted he would evolve into one of Hollywood's most versatile action stars, combining physical prowess with emotional depth in ways no previous actor had managed. The shocking contradiction between Phoenix's clean-living public image and private reality makes his case particularly devastating. To fans, he was the ultimate conscious celebrity, a vegan environmental activist representing a new, more principled approach to fame. Behind this carefully constructed facade lurked a young man spiraling into addiction with alarming speed. His drug use began on the set of My Own Private Idaho, where method acting evolved into genuine addiction, a transformation so unexpected that even those closest to him missed the warning signs. By 1993, Phoenix was regularly using cocaine and heroin while maintaining his health-conscious persona, creating enormous psychological strain. On October 31, 1993, the 23-year-old actor collapsed outside the Viper Room after consuming a lethal speedball. As his body convulsed on the sidewalk, his sister Rain tried desperately to save him, while his brother Joaquin made a panicked 911 call that would later haunt the airwaves. Phoenix's death represents not just the loss of extraordinary talent, but a reminder that addiction doesn't discriminate based on image or ideology. Number 14. Mickey Rourke. In the 1980s, Mickey Rourke seemed destined to redefine action stardom with his unique combination of raw physicality and vulnerable sexuality in films like 9.5 Weeks. Then came cocaine, mountains of it. What began as recreational partying spiraled into a habit so severe that Rourke became virtually unemployable, with insurance companies refusing to cover his films. His once beautiful face became bloated and misshapen from substance abuse even before his ill-advised boxing career and botched surgeries completed the destruction. Director Darren Aronofsky, who cast him in The Wrestler, revealed, "When Mickey was clear-eyed, he could deliver performances no other actor could touch. But those moments became increasingly rare." Number 13. John Michael Vincent. As the helicopter pilot hero of Airwolf, John Michael Vincent commanded $200,000 per episode, making him the highest-paid television actor of his time. His decline wasn't gradual. It was a free fall so dramatic, it redefined how quickly addiction could destroy a career. Beginning with cocaine, Vincent quickly escalated to a devastating polydrug addiction, including alcohol, Valium, and opioids. By the final season of Airwolf, producers were forced to reduce his screen time dramatically. Multiple DUI accidents left him with permanent injuries, including a crushed larynx and broken neck. By 2012, complications necessitated amputation of his right leg. When Vincent died in 2019, few recognized the name that had once been mentioned alongside Tom Cruise as the future of action cinema. Number 12. Errol Flynn. Before superheroes dominated screens, there was Errol Flynn, the original action superstar whose swashbuckling adventures made him a household name. His athletic performances redefined screen heroism, establishing a template that influenced generations of action stars who followed. Flynn's insatiable hunger for narcotics eventually consumed everything. his career, legendary good looks, and finally, his life. By his 40s, the once dashing hero was injecting morphine and cocaine between takes, sometimes collapsing on set when the drugs wore off. His addiction progressed from recreational to functional. He needed substances not to get high, but merely to appear normal. The studios protected their investment with elaborate stories about exhaustion, while supplying doctors who kept him functional enough for cameras. This enabling system prioritized short-term production schedules over Flynn's long-term health, creating a destructive cycle that accelerated his decline. As his addiction worsened, directors developed techniques to film around his impairment, using doubles and creative editing to maintain the illusion of his former glory. When Flynn died at 50, his autopsy revealed internal organs ravaged beyond recognition, like those of a man twice his age. The swashbuckling hero who seemed invincible on screen couldn't defeat his real villain, an addiction that transformed Hollywood's greatest adventure star into a hollow shell of himself. Number 11. Judy Garland. Judy Garland's dancing required the same bodily control and endurance demanded of any action star. What makes her case particularly heartbreaking is how young her addiction began and who caused it. At just 13, MGM executives decided she needed to lose weight and prescribed amphetamines to suppress her appetite and barbiturates to help her sleep. By her late 20s, Garland had attempted suicide multiple times. Her 1954 comeback in A Star is Born suggested potential rehabilitation, but the damage was done when she died of a barbiturate overdose in 1969 at 47. The coroner noted her body showed signs of long-term drug use that had aged her beyond her years. Garland wasn't born an addict. She was created by a system that viewed child stars as commodities. Number 10. Marlon Brando. Marlon Brando's raw energy changed cinema forever, but as his revolutionary career progressed, his relationship with substances became increasingly problematic. While his early addiction centered on food, creating body image issues that plagued him throughout life, Brando later developed dependencies on alcohol and various drugs. His behavior on sets became notoriously unpredictable, with directors reporting he would sometimes appear coherent and brilliant in one moment, then seemingly intoxicated and unfocused in the next. By the 1970s, his legendary physique had become unrecognizably bloated, partly from infamous eating binges that colleagues described as addictive episodes. The combination of substance issues and food addiction created a particularly destructive cycle that accelerated his physical decline. On the set of Apocalypse Now, Brando's condition was so concerning that production staff monitored his consumption, fearing medical emergencies. His genius remained intact, but increasingly trapped within a body and mind compromised by years of self-destructive behavior. Number 9. Richard Pryor. Richard Pryor's contributions to action cinema in Silver Streak and Stir Crazy helped integrate comedy into the genre while breaking racial barriers. Unlike other stars, Pryor refused to hide his addiction, incorporating his struggles into brutally honest comedy. The infamous incident that defined his relationship with drugs occurred on June 9, 1980, when he accidentally set himself on fire while freebasing cocaine, suffering third-degree burns on over 50% of his body. Despite this near-death experience, he couldn't stay clean. The diagnosis of multiple sclerosis in 1986 added cruel dimensions to his suffering, while cocaine accelerated his decline. By his death in 2005, the once electrifying performer had spent years confined to a wheelchair, a shadow of his former self. Number 8. Steve McQueen. The king of cool projected an image of controlled danger on screen, but off-camera, Steve McQueen's life was spiraling out of control. His addiction to cocaine, alcohol, and high-risk behavior created a perfect storm of self-destruction that threatened both his career and his relationships. McQueen's substance issues manifested professionally in chronic tardiness, and combative behavior on sets. Productions regularly fell behind schedule as crew members waited hours for McQueen to emerge from drug-induced states. His paranoia became legendary. He often insisted on elaborate security measures, convinced enemies were plotting against him. What many fans don't realize is that even as McQueen appeared at his physical peak in iconic films, he was often functioning under the influence of multiple substances. When McQueen received his cancer diagnosis in 1979, his body was already compromised by years of abuse, limiting his treatment options and potentially accelerating his decline. The man who performed his stunts couldn't escape the consequences of his most dangerous behaviors. Number 7. Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee's legend seems untouchable. The martial arts master who revolutionized action cinema before his mysterious death at 32. Behind his disciplined image lay a complex relationship with substances that Hollywood tried to erase. According to those closest to him, Lee regularly used cannabis to manage physical pain from training and pharmaceutical stimulants to maintain his punishing work schedule and physique. The most shocking revelation came years after his death, when toxicology reports showed Lee had cannabis in his system, and experts now believe his fatal reaction may have resulted from interactions between various substances. What's most disturbing isn't just that Lee died young, it's that an entire industry conspired to bury this aspect of his story. Number 6. Marilyn Monroe. Monroe's physical performances required athletic precision, sharing more DNA with action stardom than most realize. Her legendary substance abuse began not as a personal weakness, but as a studio-mandated enhancement. MGM doctors prescribed amphetamines to control her weight and barbiturates for resulting insomnia, creating a pharmaceutical prison. By the early 1960s, Monroe's dependency made her increasingly unreliable. During Something's Got to Give, she missed 17 of 30 scheduled shooting days. When she died, the toxicology report found lethal levels of barbiturates, likely an accidental overdose from confusion about her medications. The most disturbing aspect, the same studio system that created her addiction later used it to paint her as unstable when she became too powerful. Number 5. Robert Mitchum. Robert Mitchum's tough guy persona made him perfect for action roles in classics like Cape Fear. In 1948, his arrest for marijuana possession should have ended his career, yet somehow he thrived, leading many to wonder how deep his studio connections ran. What fans never realized was that marijuana was just the beginning. His legendary alcohol consumption reached mythic proportions, with director Henry Hathaway revealing Mitchum could drink an entire fifth of whiskey and still deliver his lines perfectly. By the 1970s, his lean, dangerous physique had bloated dramatically, yet Hollywood kept casting him, carefully hiding the physical devastation. Unlike many others, Mitchum never acknowledged his addiction as a problem, instead incorporating it into his bad boy persona. Number 4. Bela Lugosi. The original Dracula, Bela Lugosi transformed from a commanding horror icon to a Hollywood cautionary tale through his devastating battle with addiction. His descent began innocently. Morphine was prescribed for debilitating sciatica pain. What started as legitimate medical treatment spiraled into full-blown dependency as Lugosi began self-medicating beyond his prescriptions. As his addiction intensified, casting directors increasingly viewed him as unreliable, relegating the once prestigious actor to Poverty Row Productions. By the 1950s, Lugosi had fallen so far that he voluntarily committed himself to a state hospital rehabilitation program, a courageous but ultimately insufficient step. His addiction destroyed not just his career, but his dignity, leaving the former star destitute and desperate for work of any kind. When he died in 1956, he was buried in his Dracula cape, a final tragic reminder of the glory days that addiction had long since consumed. Number 3. John Barrymore. Before action movies existed, John Barrymore brought athletic dynamism to adventure films like Don Juan. By the 1930s, his alcoholism had progressed to where he couldn't function without liquor. His solution? Hide alcohol everywhere, in prop water bottles, fake books with hollowed-out centers, and flasks shaped like script pages. In his final years, studios exploited Barrymore's addiction, casting him in roles that mockingly referenced his alcoholism. Audiences laughed at what they thought was brilliant acting, never realizing they were watching a man dying before their eyes. When Barrymore died in 1942, his friend Gene Fowler joked, "You're not dead yet, Jack. The funeral's tomorrow and you've never missed an opening." Hollywood had turned one of its greatest talents into a punchline while feeding his fatal addiction. Number 2. Montgomery Clift. A brooding, intense star of war and action films, Montgomery Clift's career trajectory changed forever on a fateful night in 1956. Leaving a dinner party at Elizabeth Taylor's home, he crashed his car into a telephone pole, disfiguring his legendarily beautiful face. The physical and psychological trauma catalyzed his transformation from an occasional drinker to a full-blown addict. Clift turned to a devastating combination of painkillers and alcohol to manage both physical pain and depression. His behavior on film sets became increasingly erratic, with fellow actors reporting he sometimes couldn't remember lines or appeared disoriented between takes. Directors who once clamored to work with him now considered him uninsurable. His rapid physical deterioration shocked Hollywood. The young man, once considered among the most handsome in cinema, now appeared decades older than his actual age. Clift's addiction created a tragic disconnect between his immense talent and his ability to harness it. Number 1. Richard Burton. Known for powerful roles and his tumultuous marriage to Elizabeth Taylor, Richard Burton possessed one of cinema's most commanding voices and one of its most destructive relationships with alcohol. His drinking was beyond legendary, reaching mythic proportions even in an industry infamous for excess. Burton himself claimed to consume 3 bottles of vodka daily, a quantity that would incapacitate most humans. Unlike some stars who hid their addictions, Burton flaunted his, incorporating his alcoholism into his public persona as a hard-living Welsh rebel. This self-destructive romanticism influenced a generation of actors who mistakenly equated substance abuse with artistic authenticity. The physical toll became increasingly evident in his later films, where his once athletic frame appeared bloated and his facial features distorted. When Burton died at 58, medical professionals noted his body showed damage typically associated with someone decades older. His talent, like his liver, had been pickled in alcohol. Hard to believe, right? The same stars who seemed unstoppable on screen were fighting battles even tougher than anything Hollywood could script. Their struggles with addiction remind us that even the biggest heroes can have cracks in their armor. Which story shocked you the most? Or is there a junkie action star you think should have made this list? Drop your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more jaw-dropping Hollywood secrets you won't hear anywhere else.